And a good Tuesday evening, everybody. It's Tuesday night, and we're back with you. This is our third time. I know James R. is laughing his butt off because he used to always make fun of me for doing 6 shows a day. I only at wartime, James R. Only at wartime and Armageddon and the end of the world, and we just do these midnight shows with you when the world's about to explode and go away. But we're grateful you're with us tonight, man. And every time you take a little break from me, the whole world changes. How are you, buddy?
I'm hanging in there, brother. It's good to be with you. I appreciate the fact that you always put me in the anchor position. I'm not sure if that means I'm dragging the ship underwater or, we'll see how that goes.
Well, you have a face. I just want to say you got a face for radio. So I just want to make sure people understood that, like I do. So, we do it right here. No, it's good to see you, man. Really, honestly, I was telling Brad Johnson earlier tonight. We've been sort of doing some wall-to-wall coverage. We've been having an afternoon update, regular show, and then late night update the last couple of nights. But James, this feels so different than anything that I've really experienced in my lifetime about the Middle East. I think that the only thing that I can compare it to, I was a news reporter in '91 when the first Gulf War broke out, and I remember watching that night on CNN with Bernie Shaw and Holloman, and I think Wolf Blitzer was there, and they were all cowered down in that hotel room in Baghdad when the bombs started flying from America, and it was like a real-time war thing that we had probably not seen in our lifetime. I don't think I've ever seen and quite heard of such barbarism publicly displayed by a group of terrorists on a nation, and I'm still trying to get my head around this a little bit, what's happened over the last 48 to 72 hours in Israel. But we're at war, brother. I think that we need to understand tonight that it's not just Israel that's at war. America's at war too. And we've unfortunately got a government that don't understand that, and we got a group of people in this country that don't understand it either. What's your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, I think that's correct. But there's a lot of things to caution people about. I feel like that's our job, is to try to highlight for people, like, we're being driven by our emotions right now. I posted a tweet on X there about it that say, like, people need to realize that there are intel operators on all sides of this thing working your emotions to the bone right now, all over social media. They just are, because everybody's got something to sell you. Even if it's your position that they're selling you, it's still being sold to you. And I think you need to take a cautionary look at that and say, let me try to get my emotions out of this and really, really apply just my brain as much as is humanly possible to the situation. I mean, let's face it, these terrorists committed an act of terror against the whole world, because I don't care where you're at, what you're thinking. When you saw those images of the women and especially the children,
I know, man.
I mean, that just does something to you. Like, I'm telling you, I went home and I hugged my 1-year-old like I had never probably hugged her before. Like, it was that emotional and visceral for me. And I'm a pretty, cerebral dude. So if I'm feeling that level of emotion, I can't imagine how many people are taking it.
I'm with you 1,000%, man, and I think that's a wise advice, very, very wise advice to folks, because there is a lot of, with everything, James, whether it's a war, and look, we and you've known each other for 6, almost 7 years now, and look, our industry, what we do, the hardest part of what me and you do is siphoning through the bullshit and siphoning through the truth and reporting what we know to be facts, what we know to be truth, and then there's an opinion. And I always make it clear to people that if I'm telling them my opinion, I'm saying this is my opinion. I don't put it out there as the gospel truth. But there's a lot of these websites, and especially at war, and something like this, when something of this magnitude happens, the fog of it gets, as you said, people get driven by emotion. They get driven by things they read and hear. And it's a dangerous thing, because you start drawing conclusions about things, and then, while all this is going on, we've got an enemy that clearly wants to destroy Israel tonight. They want to destroy America. They want to kill the kids. They want to kill women. They want to kill the elderly. They want to kill, innocent people. And this was an attack on people, James. I mean, you look back at the wars of the past, and there was a military reason, like Saddam invading Kuwait. We went into there, we got Saddam out of Kuwait. The Gulf War of '03, we thought, and we wrongly thought, that there was weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, but at least we had a purpose for doing it. And then if you look at Israel's history, every war that's ever been perpetrated upon that nation has been a war that has been started by the Arabs, and they've sought to get land. This was different to me. This was like an all-out assault on humanity. And I think you worded it right. And it still feels so ugly tonight. It feels dark to me. Does it not you? Because I know that 1-year-old of yours is precious. I got a month-old granddaughter, and I've got 2 tots for grandsons. I got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I mean, that could have been our kids, man. That could have been any of us that these things were happening to.
No, that's absolutely right. And, it's one of those moments in time where you have to take stock of, where are we at as a humanity, right? Overall. And I'll tell you, there's some real glimpses of hope, believe it or not, in this tragedy. Because as much as we may be fearful of what's going to happen going forward in the Middle East, and we'll cover that for sure, because I definitely have thoughts on that. But let's look at something as small as the fact that the United Arab Emirates and other Arab nations are the only airlines flying people out of Israel right now. All right? Like, I just want you to really grasp that the Abraham Accords are what allowed for a condition to exist where Jews are escaping certain, misery, troubles, whatever, out of Israel and are able to land in a safe Arab country tonight simply because of that move by President Trump.
Right.
That didn't happen before those Abraham Accords. We didn't have that condition. And, let's face it, the American airlines have ceased all operations out of there because they're afraid they're just going to have their jets shut down. But the Arab nations are not. They're still doing it, and they're protecting Jews. That is a huge move forward in a conflict like this, that people need to recognize that.
Yeah, I'm with you, man, and I think that's well said. And it is. I think the next week or so, because I don't think this is going to be over in a few days. Okay, I don't think this is going to be over with. This is something that's going to have a ripple effect for weeks, and I hope not months. But Israel's going to have to clean this up. They're going to have to deal with this. It's going back to Brad Johnson tonight. I mean, he point blank told me before the show and during the show, he said, look, Iran's hands are all over this, and Iran's enemies tonight, we've actually titled the show, Iran's allies has become America's enemies. We've gotten word tonight that Syria there's possible reports that rockets have started raining down on Israel from Syria tonight. Iraq has jumped in the fray. Turkey shook Brad up because he said, to him that was the added component to this that made this such a dangerous thing, because now you're getting an alignment of these Arab nations, and then as you said, you've got Arab airlines are the only ones flying Jews out of Israel. Man, you can't make this stuff, as we used to say in our business, James R. You can't make this stuff up, can you?
No, I think this is where a lot of the traditional analysts are gonna get this one wrong, and I'll tell you why. Is because I think that they're gonna think things that from the traditional past are still applicable today, and it's going to give them a little bit wrong look. Let me tell you this. So the story you're referencing with the missiles out of Syria came from the Jerusalem Post, so Israeli newspaper. So it's probably correct because it says IDF shelled back on those locations.
Right.
What you're not hearing is official Syrian government statements condemning any of those attacks.
That's exactly
what
right.
you're not seeing is the government step in and say, fuck Israel. Sorry for the language. They're not doing that. They're actually kind of staying out of this, right? And there's, again, highlighting that those Arab planes are flying in and out of Israel to protect people. You know, they know that if a terrorist launches at one of their planes, like, they're done, right? Because they're going to even lose more support. You got Jordan got to make sure that there's a path out of there. You got, you know, unfortunately, we're stuck with this crap administration that isn't even calling for military airlifts for our own people. They literally, Biden said, book a commercial flight. Hey, dummy, they all quit flying.
Exactly.
Like, what the heck is wrong with this guy?
I know.
So I just think that your traditional analysts are going to read this a little bit off because of what we're not seeing. So I may change my mind if I start seeing it, but right now, I think that we have actually turned a corner here, and people are going to miss it. I'll leave it there for now because I know we're going to talk more about Iran and whatnot.
Yeah, I do want to ask you a question. Speaking of Mr. Alzheimer's patient, I don't think I've ever seen a more feckless press conference today in a time of great distress for this country. Because, James, look, the honest God's truth is there's a lot of anxiety out there. You know, there's even in our nation tonight, and I've gotten texts throughout the day of people that have had relatives that got out of Israel yesterday, fleeing their life. Others, you know, they're concerned about their loved ones over there. I've got a friend in Haifa. She's in the northern part of Israel. We helped her with a website years ago, and she is hunkering down. She says a lot of the activity has been to her south, but she said there's a lot of nervousness in Haifa tonight because, you know, Hezbollah is on the north, Hamas is coming in from the south, and you got the Syria, the part of this now. Possibly, you know, we're not sure how involved Syria is going to get, but the anxiety level is so high around the world. And you got the leader of the free world give a 10-minute press conference today, doesn't take any questions, turns his back, walks out of the room like a zombie. And as you said, no path forward for the hostages, no path for what we're going to do, no freezing not refreezing the $6 billion to Iran, not even mentioning Iran's name in the press conference. And then this sort of generic, well, we support Israel, and, you know, we've got basically a window dressing ship going over there to put in the Mediterranean Sea and hope that scares the bad guys into believing that we're going to do something if they do something to us. And, you know, I ask, and I hate to keep referencing Brad because he was earlier tonight. You're my guest tonight. I'm just going to say this one more thing about him. I asked him about those ships, and, you know, he was pretty much in agreement with me that it's window dressing, that he don't think that they're going to do nothing. But he said it's Joe Biden's way of saving his ass from the left, you know, saving his butt from the right, because if he's seen as not doing anything, he's really going to be in trouble. But he can't do too much because his left buddies are not going to let him do anything to really defend Israel. And it's just a bunch of crap. It's just a play, you know, a window dress that we got a ship over there. So what? You know, we got ships in a lot of ports around the world, but we sure as crap. I don't think we're not going to do anything to help Israel when it comes to crunch time. I just don't see us doing it unless I'm, like you said, I may eat those words, but I just don't have a lot of faith that we're going to be there for Israel when they really need us here. And this thing's going to get real if these other nations jump into this fray, brother. We got the potential to have a global conflict on our hands.
Well, yeah, but you know, see, this is where I think that the traditional analysts are gonna misread this, but they're also going to use this. Make no mistake, we're about to see regime change in Iran. And it's going to be on the backs of Netanyahu, who's basically already said for over 2 days, we'll miss this, that he's going to kill those guys in Iran. He's going to kill the Ayatollah. I guarantee there's already an assassination order out there, but he's likely going to just drop a bomb right on their head while they're sleeping. Like he made that pretty plain to me. But that in that vacuum, afterwards, you're going to see all these little CIA military-industrial minions that are going to use this for regime change in Iran. We're going to end up in another quagmire over there because we've got incompetent idiots in charge of our military right now. So this is why I'm even glad, to a degree, to be honest with you, that Biden is taking such a backseat approach, because what Israel needs right now is support. They don't need a bunch of cowboys running in there trying to tell them what to do.
That's very true.
Right? This is very complicated. There's a lot of moving parts to this whole thing. I'm just reading the overall 100,000 foot view here of seeing how these operators work, what they're looking to do, how they're driving the emotions of Americans through social media, the things that they're showing you, and the things that they're not showing you, which is just as important. And I don't think that these are government sanctioned things. Here's the thing that a lot of people forget, and I know Brad knows this, so I trust Brad. Hezbollah is the #1 drug cartel on the planet. Everybody forgets that. And then when you say that they're the drug cartel, they minimize the damage that Hezbollah actually has. Hezbollah has chapters in every country around this whole world, and their relationship to the drug cartels, to China. These are the guys that are actually funding the jihads, okay? Like, that's what the ties are. You want to know how the hell does heroin from Afghanistan get into the United States? That's Hezbollah.
Great point.
Okay, people need to understand that you got Hezbollah in Syria, you got Hezbollah in Lebanon, you got Hezbollah in every country, even Egypt. So those are the actors that are making the play. And what you've always had traditionally is the Arab countries supporting Hezbollah, or at minimum tolerating them, right? Whereas today, I'm not seeing the same angst. I'm seeing Iran continue their support. I'm not really seeing that from the other nations. So this is where it's going to come down to interesting times. We're going to see for sure what happens through Lebanon. That's a given. Netanyahu's already said it. They've already fired into Lebanese territory as a counter to the rockets fired from there. So, but I don't think that has official support. We're going to find out, though, shortly.
Yeah.
Next couple of days will tell the tale.
Totally. And to your point, I think the statement that he made in his statement, both in Hebrew and in American, because he said it in both speeches, he said that what they do, the response, is going to reshape the Middle East. And I think that's alluding to what you're saying, that I think Netanyahu has got the fortitude to see this through to that point. My concern for him, as it would be with this nation, because the left is just so deranged and so insane, and the people in this country have gone so crazy and insane, and I'm going to talk with you about that more in a minute, but there's a left in Israel just like there's a left here in America, James, and I hope that he will be strong enough to stand up against that and say, we're going to do what's best for the people, because they got an obligation, James, to see this through. If they don't clean Hamas and Hezbollah out, they've got to clean them out. These terrorist organizations have been affecting Israel, really going back to the early 2000s, late 90s with Arafat and the Palestinian Authority. And then when the Palestinian Authority put Hamas over it as this governing body, look, that's been a recipe and a powder keg for disaster and war, really from the day it started. And now it's happened. It's happened in this manner. And I just hope that Netanyahu, like you said, I think he's got pretty much an open checkbook, and I hope he writes a check. I got to say this, and being that you're on my show, I can say something like this because it's a James R. Be proud of me. But I think, as the old saying goes, I hope he opens a can of whip ass and he writes a check that Hamas can't cash. How about that? Is that good enough? Is that a good McDonaldism there?
I agree with you 100%. We're already seeing it. In fact, I predicted the first night. I said, no, you don't understand. You're not hearing what he's saying. Gaza's going to be a parking lot when this thing's done.
It's going to be a parking lot.
What I mean? Yeah, it's largely already happening. They told everybody to get out. We're not playing games. We're going to come tear it down. And those people that thought that they didn't have to leave, he's just blustering, they found out, all right? They FAFO'd for sure. And so, this is the problem over there, is that people are trying to use that now as counter to what was done in Israel. Look, there's no comparison here. He told you to get out. He told you we're not messing around. He turned off your electricity. Now he's turned off the water. You're done. You get out. That's it. We're cleaning house. So and if you look at the troop movements and the way that they're doing this, they're softening the target. Next is going to be street by street. They're going to clear them all out. It's not going to be pretty. And the longer it goes, the more international pressure is going to turn up to go to a ceasefire. Interesting dichotomy between this action versus the Ukraine action, though, isn't it? How first Ukraine wanted to go to the peace table, and it was us that said, no. Now it's going to be us trying to push Israel to go to the peace table when they have every justifiable right to go handle business. So, your point is very well made about the left in Israel, which is why he has a short window here. But right now, he's got this full support of every single Israeli citizen around the world. And that's when you have to cut the head off the snake, when everybody's behind you. That's why I think that we're going to see in the next few days some real trouble in places like Iran. I am not the guy that's going to say Netanyahu's bluffing. I don't think he is at all.
No, I think that they drew blood, James. And look, and even the left in this country and these protesters that are protesting against Israel, I want to just look at every one of them and have them justify these images that are coming out of the kibbutz and southern Israel and these villages where Hamas basically came over the border, assaulted these babies, cut the heads off. 40 babies' heads are cut off. Children, guns put to their heads, handcuffed. Couples shot to death in front of their children. Children shot to death in front of their parents. I want these bastards that are protesting Israel's actions tonight to tell me and look me in the face and justify that. They can't. And I don't think and I think that's one of the things that's paralyzed even Joe Biden from, and this stuff that happened Saturday, they took the tweet down when they were trying to tell Israel to restrain from them. If I'm Netanyahu, I'm not taking marching orders from D.C. on this one. It's his ball game, and I'm with you. He's got carte blanche, and I'm behind him. And I hope that every known damn Hamas terrorist is not going to bed tonight in a good mood. I hope that he's sleeping with one eye open or both eyes open. I hope there's a lot of restlessness in the Gaza. I hope there's a lot of restlessness in Lebanon tonight. I hope there's a lot of restlessness in Syria. I hope there's a hell of a lot of restlessness in Iran, because I tell you what, if President McDonald was in place and my press secretary, James R., was getting ready to go and do his first press conference, we'd be bombing the hell out of Tehran tonight, and there'd be a hole in Tehran the size of the United States, brother. That's all I got to say. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, there's no doubt there would have been a J-dam right down the center of the Ayatollah's asshole. Like, I'm telling you right now. Like, that ain't no joke.
Yeah, there would be no joke on that. And there'd be no question of... But see, James, this is the thing. What they did was an assault on America. And that's what... I guess that's the other side of this, that we're mourning the loss of life. We're mourning these Americans that are dead. We're mourning these families, the little ones. And then there's this part of this me that just rises up with this anger and this abject, just infuriating anger over the just feckless response of this government. And like you said, these brainless leaders in D.C. and these military leaders. I mean, to listen to John Kirby, I just want to stick my head in the toilet and flush it. To listen to this NSA guy, Hamilton, today, I wanted to stick my head and flush it. To listen to the Secretary, the State Department guy, maybe that is Kirby, but Anthony Blinken. I just want to stick my head in a toilet and flush it, because it's just like, are these the people that are empowered to protect us from these terrorists? If this is the case, we are all screwed, brother. We are all screwed. And look, I'm with you. I trust Bibi, and I get what he's trying to do. I just pray that he sees it through and does not take marching orders from D.C. And he basically tells Biden and them to stick it where the sun don't shine and do what he's got to do, because he's got a window, you're right, of a few days, maybe a week, to clean this mess out. He's got to do it, James. He's just got to, man. Or this is going to happen again, bro.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is that without Trump in office to do it, Bibi has to be the one to do it. And I think he knows that. I mean, I think he feels the weight. And I also think he's rising to the occasion. He hasn't made any second guesses or any short decisions. And he's been willing to say the tough things. That these guys in Iran, you better not sleep with your eyes closed. That's ballsy, right? I mean, think about it. We have 35 times the population of Israel. This is a very small nation. Like, we need to keep understanding, like, these guys are willing to take out anybody. And there's no doubt that they have the wind at their backs right now. Like, I think what you said about this being an attack on America is, something that people need to prepare for and to really understand why people in the know, people like Brad Johnson and others like him, are telling you, be careful in these big cities.
Absolutely, because, man.
Let's not forget that we have over 1,000 known got-away terrorists that came through this border. We got, right now, an entire checkpoint being inundated with people from Syria, okay? Like, let's not, call this ball short. Like, there's a reason why we didn't have any terrorist attacks under Donald Trump. And I don't think people really understand the reason. I think that they think, better policing, whatnot. That's not the case.
No, it wasn't the case.
The reason why we didn't have any terrorist attacks under Donald Trump is because he sent all those bastards a picture of their bathroom. Okay?
Exactly right, man.
That is exactly why we didn't have a terrorist attack when he was president.
Come on. Yeah, and not only their bathroom, but what they had in their bathroom. When they were flushing their toilet, he had a video of them flushing their toilet. and I can't remember the tweet I saw that he sent Iran. It was back right around the time, and he said, it's not going to be profitable for you that if one American dies, you're pretty much, I'm going to hold you accountable for every American citizen that's dead. I'm going to take one of yours or something to that effect. And look, they were scared of him, James, and that's the element that's missing. And I know I've listened to you for all these years, and you and I are both in agreement that weakness attracts this kind of stuff. And the enemies of our country, both within and without, they sense it. And when they smell blood in the water, they feel emboldened to do this kind of crap. They would have never done this under Trump. They would have never done this under probably any other president except Biden and Obama and perhaps Clinton. But they would not have dreamed of doing it under Donald Trump in a million years. And again, he's not in there tonight, so it's going to fall to Bibi. Now, I've got a question, but I'm going to go back to something you said about the internal threat to the country and getting out of the cities. You was sort of saying things like where I was headed to ask you. On a scale of 1 to 10 tonight, how concerned are you that they're sort of lurking, waiting to do something similar, if not exactly the same, to this nation, especially in those big cities? Because I have felt the same thing you have. I have felt the same trepidation, because I was thinking that if Israel lost about 1,100 people, they got a population of 9 million. We lost 3,000 people on 9/11 of 2001. That's out of a population of 350 million. The quantity of that, the percentage of that is astronomical. I mean, this is like, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 30 with Israel losing the people they lost. On us, it was probably around maybe a 5, 3 or 4 or 5, even though it felt worse. But in population terms, 3,000 out of 320 million does not even come close to what 1,100 out of just 9 million are. if one city got hit, James, just one, like Israel got hit over the weekend, you would be looking at a 10 to 20,000 person death toll. Am I far off on that?
No, you're right. This is. I'm not saying that I'm worried that $5,000, 10,000 of our people are going to be killed. That's not what I'm saying. But look, there's a reason, which I think that many of us can easily understand in this chat, is that there's a reason why Black Lives Matter is celebrating Palestine with the picture of a hang glider on it. Like, that should concern you every bit more than the terrorist gotaways in this country, because that's signifying that these people are ready to take to the streets. And let's not forget that these are the same group of people, avowed BLMers, that, 6 officers they killed in Dallas, Texas?
Yeah.
Like, these people are getting ready to stir some shit up in this country, especially when we take these fucks out in Iran.
Yeah.
Sorry for the language. It's
Buddy, you're fine. Yeah, it's late night.
You
You be James. You're good. You don't bother me. And I've got the picture up of it. They've got a Palestinian flag of the paragliders and the hang gliders, James, and that's what they use, man, to go into these parties. That's what they launched. Then I think it was David Harris that was basically making the observation that a lot of those party goers thought it was part of the party. They thought it was part of the concert. They thought it was a joke. Many people didn't even realize that these were Hamas terrorists basically parachuting in to launch their armed massacre of civilians in southern Israel. They didn't see it. And this is a threatening, this is all that it is. Black Lives Matter Chicago, and I've got the picture up right now. Unreal, brother. Unreal. And allude on that a little bit more, because that is what they're wanting to do, James, correct?
No, 100%. Like, these people are ready to go to war in this country, and many people are missing that it's not. These are people that are supposed to be Americans.
I know
that are acting like this, and I don't know how anybody can see what these animals did to the Israeli innocent population. In fact, those were leftists most likely at that rave party, just to put a period on that for you. Like, these were these peacenik type people, from Germany and all over the world, going there for a rave party in the middle of the freaking desert. Okay? Like, these are not your Republican conservatives that are out there by any stretch of the imagination. And those people were just mowed down like cattle. Okay, like they did the most horrific things to these people, as we've already mentioned, and I don't want to try to drive the emotion up anymore. But to celebrate that and is just like, the mind boggles to think about that. Like, how can you be a human being? And I got to be honest, even the pictures of the dead children from Gaza had the same visceral effect on me, which is why I even put out posts that say, like, we're being driven by our emotions so that we start calling for peace. And in this case, peace only benefits more terrorism down the road. Like, I just want that to be understood. You have to steel your mind to these things, because that's what it's going to do. You already mentioned it. Weakness begets more trouble. I mean, you can look at this very simply to any American's mind. You've probably all experienced a bully at some point in your life, maybe not personally, but you've watched it. And you see that bully will just keep going and keep going and keep going until someone knocks him the fuck out. And then it never happens again. Yeah. That's what you have to understand there.
Yeah, it's unreal what's going on. What do you believe is going to these other nations, James? Do you think they're posturing? Do you think they're really legitimately going to come into this conflict? Or do you think it's just a bunch of blather again? And, you've got a very astute political mind, and there's a political cost. I know that they talk a big game, but to get involved in this conflict right now, I think it would be very devastating to these nations, because I don't think ultimately they really want to get involved in this. That's just my take on it. I may be wrong about that. That's why I have experts like you on to help McDonald understand this. But do you think that these other nations have a bone in this that I don't think that they're gonna, I don't think they want to get involved in it, do they?
No, that was what I alluded to earlier in the program. Is I agree with you. I don't think that this is going to play out the way things usually play out. I think that the Arab world itself is going to take a sideline position. I think they're going to be hard pressed to find an Arab nation willing to stick their neck on the line this time around. Why? Because these idiots, they killed everybody indiscriminately from every nation around the world. So nobody wants to go and say, well, let me stick up for Hamas. Nah, they FAFO'd this time. And Bibi is righteously pissed off enough that he's going to go handle business. And that's why you're not seeing anybody do anything. I mean, this happened Saturday. We're at Tuesday. Okay, like they've had enough time to put out a good PR release that, would say something that would give us the impression that they're gonna, try to help out Hamas here. Nobody's doing it. And there's a reason for that. I think we're seeing something new. I really do. I agree with your assessment. I don't think these nations want to get involved. Now, having said that, if the USA gets in there and screws it all up, you could start seeing other nations condemn the actions of the United States for doing this, that, or the other thing, which again highlights why we need to be in the support position and let the Israelis handle business. If they need munitions, get it to them. If they need logistical support, get it to them. Don't be out there freaking trying to, raise your Superman flag on your back if you're the Biden administration and try to start leading operations. You start doing that and you're going to muck the whole thing up. That's when you'll start seeing pushback.
Yeah. And this administration would screw up a one-car funeral, brother. So I don't have a lot of hope that they're not going to do that. What is your thoughts on these protests here in America, the anti-Israel protests? What's your thoughts on those? Have you seen any of that in Hawaii?
Oh, no, not at all. In fact, I think that they're very minor idiots, to be honest with you. As much as it looks like it's major, like the one in New York was pretty big. Philadelphia was fairly decent sized. Still, when you look at the percentage, these are the same morons that are lining up for their 17th booster and think Biden's an excellent president. Okay, they're the same idiots. Right? They're just morons. They don't understand. They've just been propagandized. They're not willing to go over there. That's why they're here, flying their rainbow flags. Yeah.
I'm with you, brother. I'm totally with you, man. I'm totally with you. And the rainbow flag, let me tell you what you just said. Let me tell you the irony of ironies about the rainbow flag carriers. They would be thrown off a roof in Iran, James. They'd be thrown off a roof in Iraq. They'd be thrown off a roof in the Palestinian territories. They'd have their heads cut off, just like Hamas killed the Israelis. They they detest the homosexual community. The rainbow flag, folks, would be hung by their testicles in an Arab country tonight because of the Islamic governing law, correct?
Oh, yeah, but we don't even have to go to the homosexual community for that. Let's just deal with Mia Khalifa's dumbass.
Yeah.
Here you got a porn star who wants to, hey, can you turn the camera sideways and 4K video it? And she lost everything now. Playboy's like, are you out of your mind? Playboy fired this chick, okay? Like, Playboy doesn't fire anybody. They fired her, okay? Like, this is like the epitome of dumb people. That's all it really is. They're not your hardcore, virulent, party crashers, so to speak. The one party a group of people in this country right now that concerns me is the Black Lives Matter, because they've already shown that they are willing to go down the terrorist road, and to put up that symbology they are sending a very dangerous signal to America. Other than those guys, the rest of these people are all just a bunch of, misinformed idiots that they don't even know what they're rooting for anymore. They just been taught this shit their whole lives, and so they think that they're on the right side, and they're just wrong.
That's well said. That's well observation. Folks, you're watching a very special live Mac Files late night Tuesday with my dear buddy, my dear friend, James R., partner in crime. We've already been going almost 45 minutes. My God, it feels like we've been going 10. If you got a question for James R., I'm going to open the chat up tonight. We're going to keep him about 15, 20 more minutes. He's taking time out of his day. It's roughly, y'all, I guess it's about 5 o'clock in Hawaii right now. You're about 6 hours behind me, right?
Yeah, it's 5:45.
Yeah, that's what I thought. If you got a question for James R. tonight or a comment, we'll run it by him, and we'll test the guest. The Black Lives Matter situation, James, is intriguing to me because you're right. Look, the internal situation is always been the more scarier thing, the domestic terrorism. But our government, it seems, are more concerned about parents trying to keep their kids from, having porn taught to them in the 5th grade than they are these true terrorists, the Black Lives Matter, Antifa, Hamas, people that are cutting heads off babies and stuff like that. Our government don't seem to be cared about them. They are cared about the moms trying to raise hell at school boards for teaching their kids porn in the 3rd grade. It's pretty sick stuff to me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, and this is another thing a point that I think is very important for your audience to understand, is that you're going to have politicians that are going to use this as a reason to extend the 702 extension that they're going to do in Congress. And let's not forget that you're the terrorist that our government is monitoring with these 702s. It ain't Hamas. It's you. You just mentioned it. The moms at the school boards. You got the FBI saying that they're treating anyone that supports Donald Trump as a extremist militia type of person.
Right.
This government is more focused on consolidating their own power, like all communists do every time they get power. That's what they're concerned with. They don't like the fact that, look, America was bred by people who are anti-government. I mean, that's the facts. Every American ever born in this country should be anti-government. You should be watching them and keeping them out of your lives as much as possible. Now we have a party represented by the left that is so socialistic and communistic at the end of the day, that they are doing the same things that every communist socialist government in the historical records has done, trying to consolidate and control their power. That's what's really at stake here. That's why this election is so important. That's what we're fighting against. And we have to maintain that vigilance against even the idiots on our own side. Because I'm telling you, as soon as this thing jumped off, I'm watching Republicans all over the place talk about, hey, we got to get money over to Israel. Let's put the packages together. Hey, we got to get troops over there. You got Lindsey Warhawk Graham out there dancing a freaking jig because he sees his opportunity to get our boys into another war.
I know. Great point.
We have to stay vigilant in these times, which again goes back to why I said we got to check our emotions here. We have to really think through what's happening, because these guys are going to use it to screw over Americans again.
Yeah. Patriot 1776, good to see you in the house late tonight. He's out in California. He says, will Black Lives Matter pull in Antifa with them? James, what's your thoughts on that? They're blood brothers, ain't they? The Antifa, Black Lives Matter sort of work hand in hand. I wouldn't doubt they're behind this too. Some of the anarchy that may be coming here, they'll be there. They always are, ain't they?
Oh yeah, I would not doubt that. But they tend to be look, they're violent, but they're basically a bunch of scared people that will run away when they're met with equal violence, right? Black Lives Matter ain't built that way. You saw that several times throughout their protests, they were willing to kill people. All right, Antifa really didn't do that. Like they didn't go that extra step. Whereas we saw multiple instances of the Black Lives Matter people actually physically killing people to do their dirty deeds. And, that's what separates them in my mind. Yes, Antifa is dangerous, but I don't think they're going to join in on terrorism. I don't even think they're built that way. I don't think they have the balls, in other words, to do something like that.
Gotcha. Good point. Liz Goldman's got a very good question, and she says, "Do you think Netanyahu has spoken with President Trump during this ordeal?" It's a good question. I wouldn't doubt he has. We had a question earlier tonight. It was the funniest question, and somebody asked, "Do you think that Netanyahu regretted congratulating Joe Biden on the election back in 2021?" But him speaking with Trump, I'm sure him and Trump have communicated. I would hope so. I would think so.
I can guarantee you 100% that happened. I know they have back channels. I know that the world knows that Trump is very likely to be back in office. It's more than just Netanyahu that are continuing communications through the Trump team. 100%. I don't know. I'm not going to go out and say that they have personally spoken, but they are very much each aware of the other's thoughts on just about anything that matters. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Paula C. says bloodless. Folks, if you got a question for James now, be putting it in the house. We've got enough people in here. We should be having some questions, but I thought we'd have more than this already, but I guess everybody's going to bed tonight. But James, what is your... I'm going to sort of let you, as we're getting this to the, Jennifer says, how bad do you think the anti-Semitism will get? I think that it's going to get bad. Jake Tapper tonight already of CNN, this is a shocker. He was actually out there saying tonight that he was appalled by the anti-Semitism of the left. But James, there's a lot of anti-Semitism on the right. There's a lot of anti-Semitism in all circles, and it's really sad that it's there, but I think it's going to get... It's always been bad, but I think when these things happen and people start taking sides, you see an increase in that. You really do.
Yeah, but I don't think it's actually going to increase in volume. I think it's just going to be exposure. Like that veil is going to be lifted from the people that you didn't think that of, so to speak. But you should, once you think about it, you'll see, the clues were always there. The things that they were saying. And some of that, what's referred to as anti-Semitism is not really anti-Semitism in the traditional sense. It's like basically saying if you criticize a Jew, you're being anti-Semitic. Like, come on. Like, a lot of these people act like that. Like, no, that's not reality, right? Everybody deserves criticism, no matter where they're from or what their race is, at all times. Hell, I deserve criticism just for the things I've said in this space from somebody who doesn't politically agree with me. But what you are going to see is that veil lifted about who is actually doing it, right? Like and again, it goes back to these Palestinian demonstrations, right? You're watching leftists that have been leftists forever, that we have all been all over social media for years saying, these people are the racists. They are. They say racist shit. Joe Biden's been a racist his whole freaking life. You're trying to tell me suddenly he's not? That's absurd. Of course he is. Like, he even is willing to say things like, if you don't vote for me, then you ain't black. Like,
yeah.
Come on. I mean, this is just facts that have already been there. They've always been there. People just chose to ignore it for whatever their own personal reasons are.
Got a good question from Joe Rowan tonight, and I'm not going to read the second half, but I will read the first half. He says, what are Israel's options, James? There's military options, but what are some other options that they've got? And do you think that Bibi is putting all things on the table? The nuclear thing, Joe, I don't think he would go that far. But James, I think Bibi's not going to hold anything back with this conflict. I would not, if I'm an Iranian tonight official, if I am a Hamas official or a terrorist and Hezbollah, I would be sleeping tonight very nervous and scared that they are going to basically be coming to visit me with a missile or a bomb or worse. And look, I'm not sure what Israel will fully do, but I think all options are on the table. I don't think Bibi is at that point that he's going to bring nukes into this at this point, because this is not. I think he can handle it without doing the nuke thing. But what's your thoughts on that?
No, he's not going. He doesn't have to. Look, Gaza's going to be toast by the end of the week. Okay, like that's just the facts. Like by the end of this week, you're going to see that they're going to go in. Like I said, they're going to strip Gaza clean from front to end. All the people that wanted a two-state solution, that's over. Like you can just chalk that up. Ain't happening. Like that's now. Is there a possibility that it allows them to return to some semblance of self-governance? Yeah, without Hamas. Like he's gonna just eradicate them. They are done. They overstepped. They didn't think this through. And they thought they were going to have their traditional support partners, and those traditional support partners are going to hang them out to dry, because there are very real consequences to what Bibi said. And that's the key here. He straight said he's going to kill the president of Iran as well as the Ayatollah of Iran. That's straight up what he said. So they're not going to be partnering with Hamas. There's not going to be a lot of Arab protection for these people. That's, again, what I've basically spent the whole hour staking my reputation on here, which if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm willing to say that I'm wrong. And I realize that all I have is my reputation. So, I'm saying something I truly believe is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you should believe me, but this is where I think. This is what I'm looking at, from everything I can see in the maneuvering of where this is at. They've overstepped. The only time Bibi's going to go nuclear is if a major country starts messing around and they feel forced to do it. Because they're a very small nation. Again, 9 million people. They can't afford to have, let's say, Turkey start military operations against them. If that happens, that's when Bibi, he won't hesitate. He will just wipe Turkey off the map too. And the only way they're going to be able to do that is with nukes. So this is a very, very important time in the history of the world. This is one of those moments where you realize that humanity really is at stake. But I see that everybody in the major players that matter, I see that they get that. Because again, I'm going to highlight, we haven't had anyone come out and condemn Israel's actions.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. We're used to seeing that. We're definitely used to seeing that from Arab nations. We're not seeing it.
That's very true, Rand. And look, I'm with you, bro. Look, we're in the same boat. And I think this is a very moving, fluid situation. And I think this next week is going to tell us a lot. I think the next 48 to 72 hours, as you said, it happened Saturday. We're at Tuesday. It's been 4 days. You can't really judge something after 4 days, because this is a long-term event. Corey Aguilar's question is good, and she's asking tonight, do you think that the American public will put up with the Black Lives Matter riots as much as they seem to put up with them before? Because, see, the right, the conservatives got upset about it, but James, a lot of the country let them do it. These city mayors and these city police officials, and I'm not talking about the rank and file, but a lot of these police departments across America let Black Lives Matter tear their cities up, and nothing was done to most of these people, and they were allowed a free carte blanche ticket. Her question's legitimate, and I tend to believe no, but this country is as insane as it's gotten. I can't say for sure that it's not going to be allowed again. I mean, I think that's one of those up in the air questions, but what's your thoughts on that?
Well, that is an up in the air question, so I'm not going to stake my reputation, so to speak, on it. But I will say that when you see the people of Portland telling their government they've had enough, I mean, that should tell you something. That should really tell you that even leftists are done with this. When you see the people of Chicago rising up at these town hall meetings saying, what the hell is going on with this illegal immigration? You see that they are reaching the end of their rope. So I'm with the side that says, yeah, I don't think that Americans are going to stand for that anymore. I think you're going to see a lot of trouble from it, though. That's the real key, because the question becomes, do we even have enough police to do anything about it? Yeah. That's the real question. Most of these people have defunded their police departments. Good police officers have left. You've got a bunch of retards running around in, umbrella suits, just basically that don't know what to do. Okay, so that's going to be the real question. Do we even have enough police officers to stop what these people are going to do? And we'll see.
Yeah. Policy, and I'm going to let you go because I know you've been with us an hour tonight. She says, after the dust settles, do you think the people of Israel will make somebody a scapegoat for the attack and make Bibi to resign? I think it's just the opposite. I think Benjamin Netanyahu, James, if he handles this right, I mean, look, there's been a lot of turmoil in Israel in their politics. There's been a lot of calls for him to go, but I think this solidifies his government more than it hurts, because it's like Bush Sr. after Iraq War I. I mean, my God, Bush Sr. had a 75% approval rate. And there ain't no president in my lifetime had that except Trump at one time. Trump was pushing 70, but usually these things tend to galvanize nations behind leaders, not the other way around. But again, we're in a different environment, a different world tonight with people. And I can't say for sure, but I would tend to believe it would do just the opposite.
Short term, it definitely does the opposite. Long term, here's the warning sign that you need to be looking for. When social media stops showing you images that would cause you to be emotionally supportive of Israel, that's when the left is going to make their push to shut everything down. That's when a mistake by Netanyahu could cost him to go further. So this is political timing, right? Timing is everything. Right now, the whole world is enraged, and everybody pretty much universally is screaming, wipe the fuckers off the face of the planet. When that changes, you'll be able to feel the shift on social media, because intel operators will stop trying to serve you emotionally supportive videos to support what's going on from Israel. That's when you need to start to say, okay, I see the shift. Does Bibi get that shift in time? As long as he does, and he figures out to do the right things, he'll be perfectly fine. You're right. I mean, he'll go down as the greatest prime minister in the history of Israel, bar none. If he doesn't read the tea leaves correctly at the correct moment in time, that's when there's going to be a problem, and they'll scapegoat him, because that's what the left does, right? Never let a tragedy go to waste, right? Never, lose your opportunity to take power. So they're looking to do that, and you'll be able to smell it on social media.
Yeah. Buddy, good stuff, and I appreciate you coming on with me tonight. We've got to do this more often, and I'm going to get with you. I wish we could maybe do a Twitter space one day. I've got to learn how to do that and do this by audio, and we'll get with you soon on that. And I've got somebody in the chat room says they missed me on Pirate Radio. I cannot believe I'm missed on Pirate Radio. Why would they miss the captain? You're the star now. You the man. You just the man. But it's good to know the captain's missed. That's all I got to say.
Chris, you're absolutely missed. I wish you were there, because you know how to lead these conversations so much better than I do. And it's something that is important. I do my best that I can. Sometimes I have guests on, and sometimes my audience hates the guests. It's just the way it is. It's part of the job. But we got to do what we got to do, right?
I'll be back.
I'm one of those people like you, right? We don't need echo chambers. If we needed echo chambers, we could just not do this job and go hang out with Dan Bongino all day long. I mean, I don't need an echo chamber. I need to know what's really happening and what's really going on both sides of this. From our audience, you and I, just like right now, you're doing audience questions. Why? Because we want to engage with the real Americans in this country and know what they think. What are they thinking about? Where is the temperatures at? Because That's what allows analysts like myself, reporters like yourself, to get to the right stories at the right time, to make sure we're covering everything as best as we can.
Well, I'll be back. As I said, I'm getting settled into my new place, and I felt like, James, really honestly, as we get into 24, all hands have got to be on deck. It's all hands on deck tonight, and I think that it's time to to bring back. We started that show, my goodness, back in 2019, I should say, and I don't think me or you either one knew what it would do, what kind of following it would get, and it became probably one of the most popular shows on Friday night that the internet had ever seen, and we had a lot of fun with it. And but it's serious times, and I'll be back. Listen, man, I appreciate you much. I'm going to let you go. I've got to wrap this up tonight. We've been going an hour, and I thank you so much. And please, I'll have you back on soon. And we'll do this again, my friend, very, very soon. And God bless you and Tina. Give that 1-year-old a hug from our Uncle Chris. I will see you in November in person. I'm looking forward to that, and we may even do a live scope together. And that's going to be epic.
Absolutely, Chris. I look forward to it. Thank you so much for having me tonight. Thanks to your audience for putting up with my antics. I appreciate you all.
I already warned him, James R. James R. be James R. That's why I love you, man. You're my brother. You are you're close to me, my flesh and blood brother. I'd go to Hawaii and fight with you. If we had to fight for this country, I would want you to be in that trench with me. So you good. You know you got free reign on this show. We appreciate you. We love you, man. God bless you. I'll see you soon. God bless, friend.
God bless.
Have a good night. James R., everybody, put some fire in that house for him. I'm going to not leave you just yet. I'm going to take a few more questions from you tonight. And anyway, we want to thank you all for being with us. And let's see here. I want to deal with the question about the faith, about Isaiah 17, and so forth. I think Brett asked that and Jennifer asked that. Folks, let me just say this about that. We're going to be addressing the spiritual aspect of this. This was not a spiritual faith show tonight, folks. It's about James. James was dealing with this mainly politically, nationally, internationally, and those kind of questions. This is not the forum for that. Now, we've got a faith show on Wednesday night, and we encourage you to be with us tomorrow night. We have a midweek fellowship. We don't take questions. It's a teaching. We've not done a faith Q&A in a long time, and we will do that, but I will address that myself briefly tonight. I do not believe that this is Isaiah 17 being fulfilled. I do not believe it's Psalms 83, and there's a reason why. It's just not this is something that is a precursor to bigger things, but it is not the actual fulfillment of those scriptures. We had a lady in here earlier tonight that got really upset with us because she came in asking us a question that these prophetic voices have been predicting, and she thought we were mocking these prophets, and she made fun of Brad Johnson, and it showed her colors. And folks, I'm going to tell you something. I will mock a false prophet all day and twice on Sunday, and I won't blink an eye doing it, because these false prophets need to be mocked. And these people that are putting these prognostications out there and making all these predictions and making all these statements and to get views and get money and all that, folks, they're not worth your time. I'm not dumb enough to come against a true prophet of God. I wouldn't be that stupid. But I also recognize what's a true prophet of God and what's not. And a lot of this stuff that's out there, folks, is not biblical. It's not true. But to answer y'all's questions, no. It's not. It's not the fulfillment of that yet. All these things in the prophetic verses of the Bible have to do with the Great Tribulation period. There will be a time when these nations will align themselves against Israel. It's called the Great Battle of Armageddon. I believe Psalms 83 is Armageddon. And I don't get too much when I read behind commentators and read behind those that have studied this for many years. I've studied it for many years. I think they agree with that. Now, if you want to believe that that's not true, that's up to you. You asked my opinion. That's what I'm telling you tonight. But no. But in the context of the show, please understand this was not a faith show tonight. That's why I didn't answer it the way I at that time. As far as it being too early, I will say this, folks. Setting times and dates, we don't know. Look, let me just go ahead, since we've opened this can of worms tonight. It's not a can of worms. Up into the rapture of the church, if the church is still here, none of what is predicted for Israel will take place. There will be some things that will be a foreshadow and a rumbling of the things that are to come. The dividing line is the rapture of the church. When the church is taken out and the man of sin signs that 7-year peace treaty with Israel, that starts what Jesus called Great Tribulation, the tribulation period. A time like he says has never been in the past. It's a time like that will never be in the future. Now, what takes place in those 7 years, folks? Revelation tells us what's going to take place in there. Daniel tells us what's going to take place. Isaiah tells us what's going to take place. Ezekiel tells us what's going to take place. Zechariah tells us things are going to take place. Jeremiah tells us what's going to take place. There's passages in Malachi, sort of veiled references to that. There are veiled references to it in the Psalms. Psalms 83 being one of them. It's an alignment of nations against Israel. Joel is the one I was thinking about, not Malachi. Joel has tremendous verses that reference directly the Great Tribulation period. Jesus himself talked about the Great Tribulation period in Matthew 24 and 25, and in Luke 17, and in Mark 13. And Paul talked about the great catching away of the saints, and he also dealt with the deception that would come with the Antichrist in 2 Thessalonians chapter number 2 and 3. So the Bible is replete with information as to what is coming. Now, if you don't believe in a rapture of the church, none of this will make sense. None of this will make sense. And when people start taking scriptures that are destined for that period of time after the rapture, and they start putting them in current events, they get themselves messed up, and you get all sorts of weird theology, and you get all sorts of weird thinking, you get all sorts of weird ideas, you get all sorts of weird stuff. And again, if I'm not trying to point to this show, but I'm going to point to this show. You need to be with us on Wednesday night. Now, we're in the churches right now. We've really not got to the prophetic strain of Revelation. We're going there. We're going to be teaching. We're teaching the book of Revelation on Wednesday night. You're welcome to come and listen. We don't really chat during that time, and we don't take questions. But if you've got a question about prophecy, MacFiles Forum at gmail.com is the way that you communicate with us about that. We're not trying to be rude to the questions, but it just was not the place for that tonight. We were not talking with James about prophecy. I had John McTurnan on Saturday morning. That's when you should have brought that in, because John was he was a prophecy expert, and we were talking about prophecy with him. And we're going to get John back on. Maybe that'd be a good thing to run by him. But this is not Psalms 83 and Isaiah 17. What's happening tonight is not that. It is a precursor. It is a precursor of things to come. Now, we don't set dates. We don't know when these events will take place. But anyway. Anyway. So that's why. All righty. We do appreciate you guys being with us tonight. If you got a question, any comment, I do want to say something. I do want to say a few things tonight. As far as an update goes, there's not really been any new breaking information tonight than what we had earlier this afternoon. You can go back and watch our special we did at 5 o'clock this afternoon on our YouTube channel, our news network. And the Brad Johnson show we had to take down because we dealt with some things that we just know YouTube. Brad, I don't know what it is with YouTube and Brad Johnson. They don't like Brad Johnson. And we had to take it down, but we're going to put it on Telegram at themacfiles.org. If you go to that website, there's a link. Go to our Telegram room, join our Telegram room, and you'll see all the replay shows. Facebook has the replay shows. And I want to make it clear again tonight, Folks, I said this at the end of the Brad show because some of these comments, I've been a little getting my dandruff up a little bit today, and I'm trying to be calm here at the end tonight. We don't embrace occultic, psychic prognostication. And a lot of what's being said out there by these prophetic voices, folks, is nothing but occultic, psychic prognostication. It's not prophecy. And I view a lot of these things with a grain of salt, and I've watched this prophetic movement delve and basically drown in making predictions for 3 or 4 years now that have not come to pass. And then when something like this happens, they all get out there and they start claiming, we predicted this, we predicted this. You've got a prophetess out there tonight literally telling her people that she has been basically going back to her past prophecies, trying to find things that she said 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago that she feels like, as a narcissistic individual that she is, she's putting that out there that she was right about all this. Folks, listen, when you see such narcissism, that's not prophecy. That's not coming from somebody that's hearing from God. And to me, that disqualifies anything they say. And that's why this lady tonight was so rude about that we were mocking prophets. No, we're not mocking prophets, but we're telling you to stay away from false prophets. The same rule applies to false media narratives. You need to be very, 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 very careful of the news sources that you follow. We're not ever going to tell you here that we're infallible, folks. We make mistakes. I love what he said tonight. Look, James and I are giving you our opinion about things. We may be wrong. We may be proven to be wrong. And if you've known Chris McDonald long enough, I've come back on this show many a time and said, I was wrong. We missed that one. And we'll do it again. I'm sure over the next course of the years, we've been here 6 years, going on 7 in January. There's been some things that we just didn't get right. We've come back and said we messed up. That was our opinion. We never told you it was Bible. We told you have to form your own opinion, but sometimes our opinion is wrong. But see, the difference in our show and most shows, we're man enough to admit it. Other networks, what they do when they're proven wrong, they dig in and they just keep pushing this bullshit more and more, and then they get darker, deeper to the fact that then when you start seeing this potpourri of stuff, people's minds, that is why people are so confused tonight and they don't know what to believe. My advice to you on this Tuesday night, soon to be Wednesday morning, it's already Wednesday morning, it's 12:13, and I'm about to let you go. Be careful what you're listening to out there. There's going to be a lot of propaganda on both sides, left and right. There's going to be a lot of misinformation, both left and right. There's going to be a lot of people on YouTube channels trying to get views, putting out a bunch of theories, a bunch of conspiracy talk, a bunch of this, a bunch of that, a bunch of this, a bunch of that, a little bit of Q, a little bit of nonsense, a little bit of Q, a little bit of nonsense. And you better watch what you're listening to and keep a sound mind and a sober mind and be vigilant and diligent and protect your families tonight and stay clear of this stuff and keep a sound mind and think soundly. That's all I'm asking you to do tonight. We're going to do our best to bring you the truth and nothing but the truth, so help us God. Stay with the Mac Files. We're not the only network that is out there trying to do this, but I will tell you this, we are one of them. And you're in safe harbor here. We're not trying to run a prison cell in that chat, but we don't put up with distractions. We don't put up with foolishness. And if I see something that I think is foolishness, as the host, we take it out. Now, you don't have to like that. You can get upset, and that's fine. But we don't embrace foolishness. And if it's against something that we feel that is true, we're going to take it out. That's just the way it is here. It's always been that way. It's not like we've just started doing that. It's always been that way. I have been told by probably 90% of the listeners that they appreciate that about our show. And the 10% that don't are the people putting the foolishness in there. So, we're saying that to you in love tonight. Stay with us during this time. We're doing these updates every day. We'll have one tomorrow, possibly tomorrow. Tomorrow it's going to be a busy day. I've got to be in the studio in the morning. And it's going to be a busy day tomorrow, but we're going to try to bring you an update. We got Eric Kieran at 3 tomorrow afternoon. He's in Tanzania tonight, so we're going to have to go afternoon with him. And then our face show tomorrow night. Thursday, Marcia Montenegro will be with me, and we'll have an update from Israel on Thursday. Unless something major blows up, we may not have one tomorrow. But Thursday, we will update you on Israel, and that'll be our 5th update, and we've done 4. So please stay with us. We love you tonight. We appreciate you being with us, and it's getting late, and we hope that you have enjoyed this. And looks like we've got some fools. You hear sleeper cells are being activated. And by the way, folks, another thing that I need to remind you folks about, please don't be asking about guests. It's amazing how we have a guest on and people come in and rudely ask about somebody else. If you got a question about guests, macfilesforum@gmail.com. You send us that request, and if I feel like we can tell you about that guest, we will. So we have who we have every week, and so forth. Don't be asking it publicly. It's rude. It's rude to our guests. It's rude to me. It's rude to the show. And we've told you that a million times, but some people are immune to good advice. Some people are immune to good advice. But anyway, I have to repeat that again for the 20th time. Did you enjoy the show? Did you enjoy the show? Did you enjoy the show? Put some fire in that house. And we appreciate you for being with us tonight. And we hope you enjoyed staying up with us. Now, we're going to leave this one up. I don't think there was anything with James. James is James. I love him. He gets wired up like I do. And we're going to be doing a lot more shows together in the future. And I'm proud of him. And I'm proud of him and Tina and that baby. And our prayers with him in Hawaii tonight and for you. Folks, listen, be safe out there. Be safe. If you're in these big cities, I encourage you. I encourage you to be vigilant. Check on your families. Check on your families. Check on each other. I just sense that something's up. You heard James tonight, Black Lives Matter, these groups. Folks, they're subtly signaling that they're, who knows what they're up to. Just be safe. Wherever you're at in this world, in this country tonight, know that we got you back here, and we're always going to have you back. We appreciate you guys. Have a good night, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow on the Mac Files throughout the day with Mark Kieran, with Eric Kieran at 3, our face show tomorrow night. And until then, McDonald out. Have a good night, everybody. Be blessed. Thank you, James R., for a great show, my friend. Good night, everybody.